This episode of Juices the New Tea is brought to you by Cleansed. Sometimes your body needs a reset. Our signature 3-day juice cleanse is designed to give your digestive system a break while flooding the body with nutrient-dense juices that support hydration, immune system function, and digestion. Whether you're looking to reset and recommit to healthier habits or simply feel lighter and more energized, visit iamcleansed.com and start your cleanse today. Use code JUICESTheNewT for 10% off your next order. Enjoy the episode. Blessings, my beautiful people. Welcome to the season finale of Juices the New Tea. I am your host, Eleni Simos, and oh my goodness, I am so grateful and a little sad that season 2 has come to an end. But I couldn't be more proud of this season and the magical little moments that came from season 2. So I feel like this season deserves a little moment of reflection because truthfully, when I look back at all of the conversations we've had this season, from energy readings to recovery and nervous system healing, to love and partnership, to plant medicine, pelvic floor health and intimacy, to laughing with your friends, to generational healing, that's a mouthful. There's this common thread woven through all of it, and it's returning to simplicity. Because real wellness is not about perfection, it's not even about optimization, and it's become so much more than just adding another morning routine or meditation. Wellness is really about coming home to yourself again and again and again. It's about staying connected to your breath, building a relationship with your intuition, balancing it with unpredictable nights out with friends, and leaning into your feelings, embracing your grief, and most importantly, reclaiming your relationship with yourself. This season reminded me that the idea of healing doesn't have to be heavy. Sometimes it's subtle, sometimes it's slow, and sometimes it's unlearning a set of conditioned behaviors to choose a different response than the one your nervous system might be used to. In fact, I think it's safe to say we all should graduate from the idea of healing and really start to embrace the idea of embodiment. Because we are exactly who we think we are. We are limitless, we are powerful, we are constantly learning and unlearning. And if you're listening to this show, there's a strong possibility you are already committed to yourself and a growth mindset, and that you strive to be 1% better every day. Because truthfully, that's all that it comes down to. And I think one of the biggest lessons this season reminded us that transformation comes after seasons of major breakdowns. Almost every guest I had on experienced some type of major loss or major turning point moment that altered a shift in their perspective that ultimately led them to a completely new path, one that they didn't see themselves going down. Which is why I love the in-between moments I've talked about so frequently that we all undeniably go through, and why I have found personally a sense of peace in the breakdowns, because right after the breakdowns come, the breakthroughs. Which brings me to one of my favorite themes of this season, my first episode with Jalissa on mini rituals and the energy reading that she gave for the elements of the zodiac. You know, I loved the live oracle reading on the show. But aside from that, we talked about the power of creating small intentional moments or rituals, like calling your power back at the end of each day, sprinkling a little salt in the corners of your home for protection, blowing cinnamon into the doorway of your home to invite more prosperity, more love, and more abundance into your life. This reinforced to me how important it is to set intentions every single day. Stepping outside into the morning sun, speaking life into your water, your tea, or the juice that you're drinking, putting your phone down for a few minutes and actually being present with yourself, being present with your breath, and listening to what your body is telling you. We went deep into this during the episode with Keith on recovery and nervous system healing, how the body keeps the score, and inviting more practical and physical ways to recover. Because when you slow down and create tiny rituals throughout your day, it tells your body and your subconscious mind it's safe to relax, it's safe to be here, and it's safe to be present. It's like my favorite little mantra. And also that you deserve just as much care and love that you so freely give to other people. And think about how powerful that is to speak to yourself in that way. Your inner dialogue is so important. And I think that in a culture that constantly promotes intensity and productivity, creating mini rituals for yourself is almost an act of rebellion. because these mini rituals encourage us to slow down enough to actually feel our lives, to actually become present with our lives and ourselves. And honestly, I've realized that wellness without presence just becomes performance and sometimes content. I hate that. Sure, you can drink the green juice, you can take all of the supplements and the vitamins that you're told to, you can go to the workout class, you can meditate every single morning. But if you're disconnected from yourself while you're doing it, what are you actually nourishing? So I think that's why these conversations on this show resonated so deeply with me this season. They weren't about becoming someone else. They were about peeling back layers and returning to who we already are underneath the noise of the day-to-day that we deal with, and even drown out the noise of our ego. And speaking of relationships and returning to ourselves, I keep thinking about my conversation with Josh and Michelle from Bolt Fitness, my two favorite people. Because I think people often romanticize partnership without talking about the actual work of sustaining love and everything that goes into that. Love is not just about chemistry, but it's about communication, balance, and protecting your energy as individuals and as a couple. And it's about choosing each other over and over every single day and having each other's back. That was one of my favorite things that Michelle said. She has his back. Josh knows she has his back. And what stood out to me the most was how intentional they are and how friendship is at the baseline of their partnership, their relationship. With friendship comes trust, and with trust comes respect of one another's growth and evolution over time. Because if we're choosing someone, we're choosing them over and over again in every single version of themselves that they are going to be. And I truly admire how they both hold space for one another as friends, as partners, both in love and in business. And I think intentionality is a key when it comes to building a relationship. It's not necessarily about the grand gestures or preaching social media perfection in your relationship. We all see so much of that now. To me, real partnership is about the daily decision to build something together, to support one another while also maintaining your individuality, to communicate from a place of self-awareness and accountability, and to consciously co-create together, to choose each other, like I said, every day, because you yourself choose growth, and growth comes best in the forms of relationships. I think relationships really reveal the places within ourselves that still need healing, and that can be uncomfortable. And then if you go ahead and add a layer of being in business together, it creates a whole new dynamic, because love doesn't just expose our softness. Love exposes our patterns, our fears, our defenses, our attachment wounds, our nervous system responses, which actually ties beautifully into my conversation with Keith from Recovery Mode. And we talked all about recovery and so much about the nervous system regulation. And that episode hit deeply for me because it reframed healing in a way that I think so many people really need to hear nowadays. Because healing is about taking accountability and being mindful of your perspective. Your nervous system remembers what your mind tries to move past. And I think that so many of us are walking around dysregulated without even realizing it, because survival mode has become just so normalized. And in that conversation with Keith, we discussed our exposure to constant stimulation and the idea of constant urgency. We are always on. And if we're not on, we're stressing about being on. And some people wear burnout like a badge of honor these days. And unfortunately, our society has normalized hustle culture. Believe me, I'm in that too. I have to consciously remind myself to slow down. But healing often begins when the body finally feels safe enough to stop bracing and just become present. My conversation with Keith reminded me that recovery isn't weakness. Trust me, like I said, I was a former restophobia. I never allowed myself to rest, especially when I was in the beginning stages of building my business. I realized that was not the way to do it. Rest is receptivity. And I realized over the last few years, and Keith solidified this realization for me, rest is not laziness, slowing down is not failure. And sometimes the most productive thing that you can do for yourself is to take a beat, to honor your body, and to mindfully regulate your nervous system. Breathe deeper, sleep more, go outside, laugh with your friends, eat nourishing foods, move your body because you love your body. And to always, always, always keep gratitude at the center of your being. I loved that Keith brought so much gratitude into our conversation. That was like life-giving for me. I think this season of Juices the New Tea really challenged the idea that wellness has to be extreme, because I think wellness is simply just consistency. Sometimes healing, is drinking water and letting yourself feel all of your emotions and going for a walk. Sometimes it's booking the sauna session and writing a letter to someone that you need to forgive. Sometimes it's absolutely none of that, and it's grabbing a drink with your friends and forgetting about your responsibilities. Another conversation that I think opened up a lot of people's eyes was my episode with Jacqueline on pelvic floor health and intimacy, because women's health conversations are still so under-discussed. We've normalized discomfort, we've normalized pain, and we've normalized being disconnected from the body. And so many women are silently dealing with symptoms they think they just have to live with, similar to what Keith was saying too. When in reality, nourishing our own intimate relationship with ourselves can be the pathway to living a life that turns us on. That episode felt empowering to me because it reinforced the idea we discussed in so many previous episodes that the body is constantly communicating with us. When we feel turned on by our lives, we find the power to manifest and create so much more, and it just comes naturally to us. When we build on our own inner compass of what we are excited by, it's much easier for us to follow our yes. So much magic comes when we follow our joy and when we follow our yes. Looking for an easy way to support your gut health and start your mornings with intention? Cleansed offers a 21-day celery juice program designed to support digestion, hydration, inflammation, and your overall health and wellness. Starting your morning with celery juice is a powerful addition to your routine and a simple way to strengthen digestion and nourish your body daily. Visit iamcleansed.com to learn more and start your reset today. Because again, your body is always giving you feedback. And instead of ignoring it or overriding it, we have to learn to listen. So whether we're feeling stressed, whether we're noticing hormonal imbalances, emotional burnout, chronic tension, I think that true wellness begins when we stop treating the body like an inconvenience and we start treating it like a partner, like it's something to work with, it's something to honor, and it's something most importantly to nurture. And that naturally brings me to one of the more expansive conversations this season, my episode with Angela on plant medicine. Now, regardless of where someone stands on psychedelics or plant medicine, I think the deeper conversation, the deeper theme there was really about the courage to embrace grief, return to the roots of alternative medicine, and to look inward for your answers. Because healing is not comfortable. And plant medicine, also not comfortable, and encourages us to really go deep and often confronts us with our own darkness, something that a lot of people want to avoid. Sometimes the idea of healing asks us to confront the grief we've avoided or confronting versions of ourselves that we've outgrown. And then on top of that, mourning those versions of ourselves as well. I love that she spoke so openly about mourning the version of herself that had her marriage, that had her husband, the version of herself that she was before she got sick and diagnosed with Lyme's disease. And I think what people are really searching for, whether through meditation, therapy, spirituality, plant medicine, movement, religion, wellness practices, is simply connection. I think we're all just looking for connection. I think that's why we pick up our phone 90% of the time. We are seeking connection, connection to ourselves, connection to our purpose, connection to something much greater than ourselves. And Angela is someone I really look up to. She's such a badass. And much like myself, she took an unbearable loss and transmuted that experience into a much bigger purpose for helping thousands of people channel grief into presence and acceptance. And that is incredible to me. Plus, her integration of plant medicine and bee venom therapy to heal herself of Lyme's disease is just absolutely remarkable and so brave of her. And I hope it reminded everyone just how incredibly resilient the human body is when we give it the right circumstances and conditions to heal. I think one of the dangers in the Western medicine space is we constantly look outside of ourselves for every answer. which is why my conversation with Miss Janet Namaste felt like such a beautiful way to close out the season. I had her on twice this season. I feel like we didn't even touch the surface the first time I had her on, that I just had to invite her back. We talked so much about intuition versus fear, soul connections, clearing karmic and generational patterns, trusting your own wisdom. And honestly, I think learning to trust yourself is ultimately the greatest healing journey there is. That journey is everything. Because so many of us have been conditioned to doubt ourselves, to doubt our relationship to a higher power, or doubt our relationship to our own higher selves. We seek permission, we outsource our knowing, we ignore our intuition in favor of logic, validation, or fear. But your intuition cannot doubt or dismiss your intuition. Your intuition speaks quietly. So you have to create enough stillness to hear it. Always goes back to the stillness. I think the biggest takeaway is that healing simply is not linear. Sometimes you evolve and then you regress. Sometimes you outgrow people. Sometimes you revisit old wounds from a new level of awareness. And that doesn't mean that you're failing. Trust me. It doesn't mean that you're failing. It's the journey. It means you're human. Forgive yourself for not knowing what only time could teach. That is a mantra that I have embodied over the last couple of months. Forgive yourself for not knowing what only time could teach. I think the most important thing is, yes, it's important to forgive other people, but ultimately you have to forgive yourself and let it go. Because if you don't, as we learned in our conversation with Keith, that tension manifests in the body on a physical level. And I think self-awareness has duality to it. I think the more aware you become, the harder it becomes to betray yourself. You really start to notice what drains you. You take inventory on these things. You become more sensitive to your surroundings, to relationships that are around you. You really start to notice what and who fulfills you. You start to notice what and who dysregulates you, what brings you into balance, what no longer aligns, what feels effortless. And while awareness is very freeing, it can also be lonely at times, because growth requires change, and growth requires accountability and radical acceptance. Growth and change requires letting go. But I truly believe that anything authentic will withstand your evolution and find you again. I truly believe that. The right people will meet you exactly where you are. You will never miss anything that is for you. And that's another reminder that this season gifted us, is that healing is not about becoming perfect. It's not about attaining some goal. It's really about embodiment, and embodiment is simply about just being. Again, we are human beings, not human doings. It's about becoming honest with yourself about what hurts, honest about what needs to change, and honest about what your soul is really asking for. And I think there's something really beautiful about how diverse all of the conversations of season 2 were. Like, I'm very proud of this season's lineup, and I have so much in store for next season. We covered everything from wellness on so many angles: physical, health, spirituality, relationships, emotional healing, recovery, mindset. And yet somehow they all arrived us to the same place: presence, connection, self-trust, and so much talk about the nervous system. So much talk, but I loved it. I hope you did too. And I think in a world that profits off of our disconnection, choosing to know yourself and to develop the relationship with yourself and slow down is actually pretty radical. I think choosing rest is radical. I think choosing authenticity is radical. I think choosing softness is radical. And this season also reminded me how important community is. Because again, you cannot heal in isolation. You heal in community, in togetherness. It's through conversation that we heal, through reflection, through allowing ourselves to be witnessed by another person, through hearing someone articulate something we felt but never really had the words for. That's basically how I feel every time I talk to Janet Namaste. She speaks to my soul every time I have her on the show. So I am eternally grateful for every single guest who came on this season and shared their wisdom, their vulnerability, and their stories with us. from Jalissa, Josh, Michelle, Keith, Jacqueline, Angela, Catherine, Janet, Michelle again, and our producer, Chris. I am so grateful for you all, the wisdom, the energy, the love, the laughter that you shared with us this season. And I'm also deeply grateful for everyone listening and watching. So grateful for all of you. I love you. Whether you've been here since day one, season one with me, or you just recently found the show, thank you. Thank you for spending your time here. Thank you for supporting me. The show, these conversations fuel me. So thank you for caring about growth and healing and wellness in a deeper way. Because I really believe in Juices the New Tea. And all of my professional and creative pursuits that I've done in my life, this show is an outlet for me. And I am not only so proud of it, but it's something I genuinely enjoy doing. And I truly believe that that energy comes through in the show. So the show is becoming exactly what I wanted it to be, a space where we can have honest conversations about what it means to be human, about evolving, healing, learning, unlearning together. So as we close out season 2 of Juices the New Tea, I want to leave you with this. You do not need to have everything figured out to move forward. You do not need to heal overnight. Again, healing is not linear. You do not need to become something else to be or feel worthy. Maybe your next step is simply slowing down enough to hear yourself again. Maybe it's blowing some cinnamon into your doorway on the first of the month. Maybe it's setting a boundary. Maybe it's booking a sauna session. Maybe it's just simply resting. Or maybe it's attending a family constellation workshop with Janet Namaste. Maybe it's laughing with your friends. Or maybe it's finally trusting that thing that your intuition has been trying to tell you all along. And whatever season you're in right now, I want you to honor it. I want you to embrace it. And I want you to love the process that you are in. And I want to thank all of my season 2 guests again. Special thanks to Stevan, the creative producer behind Juices the New Tea. So much love and gratitude to our lead producer, Chris, Big Taurus Energy. I'm so grateful for both of you, and a special shout out to Jesse for jumping in to produce as well. Thank you so much for listening to this season of Juices the New Tea. Make sure to catch up on previous episodes if you missed any of our conversations. Subscribe on YouTube, follow along on Instagram at Juices the New Tea, and share the show with someone who might appreciate these conversations too. I love you guys, and I will see you next season. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Juices the New Tea. If this conversation resonated with you, be sure to share it with someone you love. Visit juicesthenewtea.com to check out our previous episodes and subscribe to our show so you never miss a conversation. Take care of yourselves, trust your journey, and keep showing up for the life you want to create. Until next time.